The key to progressing in your personal evolution is to relax about the speed and how it's occurring. So often we put unnecessary pressure on our personal growth journey. We become aware of our limiting beliefs and then we start becoming afraid of our own thinking. But if we just relax around it, the tools, the support, the wisdom, the awareness necessary in order for us to transcend and transform those limiting beliefs into expansion in our life will arrive. I'd go so far as to say that you started relaxing a little bit more about your limiting beliefs just recently, which is why this video showed up for you. If you have ever been feeling like you are stuck in personal growth, that the more aware you're becoming, the more problematic your limiting beliefs are becoming, and you feel like you kind of suck at your own personal growth, and you're wondering how you can speed up the transformation of your limiting beliefs because you understand your thoughts are creating your reality and you're not happy with what you're observing in your inner dialogue, you are absolutely going to love this episode. When I finally discovered this, it was an absolute game changer for me in terms of having a more joyful experience of life, and actually contributed in magnificent ways to a life that I love living today, where, yes, of course, I have the material things, my dream home, I met the woman of my dreams, I have an extraordinary family, a new baby boy. But more importantly, once I learned this, I could sort of take the pressure off of myself. And we're going to learn in this episode that it's taking the pressure off of yourself that's key. And we're going to identify what you're doing that's actually putting unnecessary pressure on you and how you can turn that pressure into ease and flow and therefore energy and growth. And this was actually inspired by a comment on one of my other videos by someone named Michael Walsh, and I'll put it up here on the screen. He said, I feel as though I'm in exactly the same place. The deeper I go into self-awareness, the more I've struggled to change the same beliefs that are front and center. And so if you've ever felt this way, whether it's around, an increased awareness around your family money blocks or limiting beliefs you have around money that you now understand are contributing to the absence of the prosperity and abundance that you would like, or maybe you're aware of some limiting beliefs around your health, you're sort of stuck in a chronic disease loop, and you know that your own thinking is contributing to your inability to move back into well-being, or you're trying to grow your business, but you know that there's a whole portfolio of limiting beliefs that are preventing you from really dialing in your messaging or finding a predictable way to generate leads or attracting high-paying clients or partnerships or joint ventures. Whatever it is, this episode is going to be a breakthrough for you. I am sure, because it was a breakthrough for me. And so let's walk through this together. If you've been in personal growth for a while, you've probably started to pay attention to your own thinking. You've started to become more self-aware, aware of your inner dialogue. And as you've become more self-aware, you start to pay attention to these limiting beliefs, the meanings that you gave the experiences of your life during your childhood. Maybe it was a result of some childhood trauma. Somebody abused you in one way, shape, or form, and you gave a meaning to that experience that, you weren't worthy or you didn't deserve love. And so now you've been creating that in your life. Or maybe you watched your parents really struggle financially, and so money was scarce. Or maybe you lived in an environment where you had financial abundance, but your parents had to work really, really hard to achieve it, so money was hard to make. And so, now you're doing the personal development work, but it seems like, some of these limiting beliefs are just hard to change. And you continue to experience, like that movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, sort of the same life over and over again. New relationship, same toxic relationship, new opportunity to get ahead in life, and then falling back into some bill that suddenly shows up and feeling like you can never quite get ahead, of your monthly payments. You start to feel better physically in your body, and then it's a new part of your body that starts to hurt. This merry-go-round of undesired experiences. And so what's important to understand, if we're going to unpack this, is that the mind is going to give a meaning to every experience. It's what the mind does. And it's also going to give a meaning to the experience of your journey of personal growth. The mind has a filter which is focused on survival, The moment you actually desire something, like to change your thinking, what the mind will do is it will pay attention to the absence of the thing desired, right? The moment you have a desire for something, the mind does two things. It's now aware of the desire for something, but it's also aware of the absence of that thing that you want. And it starts to bring its attention and focus to the absence of the thing that you want, thinking that that is the way to actually achieve the thing that you want, right? Let's pay attention to the problem, because if we pay enough attention to the problem, then maybe we'll figure out a way to actually solve the problem and create the thing that we want. And in this case, what you're wanting to do is transform your limiting beliefs. You're wanting to have a deeper spiritual connection. You're wanting to be really, really good at your personal growth. You're wanting to have a changed mind. And so what the mind is doing is it's paying attention to the absence of that change, and it's giving it a meaning. Now, this is a normal functional process of the human being operating system. But it's important to understand that this is the way you work. And so the meaning most often that we give this experience of being aware of our limiting beliefs and then still having our limiting beliefs, it might sound something like, and you can drop it in the comment box if you're listening on YouTube with us and you're here in the studio, might sound something like, when are these limiting beliefs going to go away? I've been aware of these limiting beliefs for a long time. What if these limiting beliefs never go away? Is that going to, and the sort of the subtext there is that's going to prevent me from having the life that I want. What am I doing wrong that I still have these limiting beliefs? How come other people seem to be able to overcome their limiting beliefs, but I'm still stuck with my limiting beliefs? What's wrong with me that I still have these limiting beliefs? Does this sound familiar? By the way, this is a tape that kind of runs, whether we're talking about limiting beliefs, whether we're talking about money, whether we're talking about relationships, whether we're talking about, the size of the house that we have or the type of car we have. We've identified, 7 to 10 core limiting beliefs that people have, but then they materialize in, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways, but it's always the same type of inner dialogue. And so the mind will give a meaning to this continued experience of limiting beliefs. And the problem with that is that the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So if you believe that you're not doing personal development right, and you believe that there's something wrong with you, and you believe that your beliefs should have been gone by now, but they're not, and you believe that unless you figure out how to hurry up and speed up this process of inner transformation, you're not going to be able to produce the outcomes that you dream of in your life. The challenge is the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So then you're right? Henry Ford said this: the man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both right. Buddha and Gandhi both said something very similar. The mind is everything what you think you become. And so, your brain is like a heat-seeking missile. So if you believe that you should have gotten rid of these limiting beliefs by now, and that there's something wrong with you because you haven't, and that that's going to negatively impact you moving forward, that will actually impede your ability to let go of these limiting beliefs. So there's nothing actually wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you've become aware of your limiting beliefs. But if you want to let go of them, we've got to find a way to give a different meaning to the experience, because the brain is a goal-achieving machine. When I say the brain is a goal-achieving machine, another way to say that is, your thoughts become your reality. So if you believe you suck at personal growth, then you're going to experience that, right? If you believe that there's something wrong with the fact that you still have these limiting beliefs, then you're going to experience that there's something wrong. And this isn't some sort of woo-woo, this idea that your thoughts become your reality. I've talked about this in depth in many other episodes, and it's the foundation of everything that we talk about on A Changed Mind. Behavioral psychology tells us that what you believe, meaning the meanings that you sort of gave the experiences of your life at a very young age, the meanings that you gave money, the meaning you gave relationships, the meaning that you gave your perception of yourself, or what other people, said about who you were, whether it was true or not, your core beliefs that were formed at a very early age, that were literally forged into the wiring of your brain as memories, will inform today on a moment-by-moment basis what you think. And so you can't have thoughts that are much different than the beliefs that were really the seeds that gave rise to them, right? So if you believe you're, not worthy of love, you're not going to be having thoughts of being deserving. You're not going to have thoughts of self-esteem. If you don't believe, for example, that you're worthy of making money, you're not going to have thoughts or ideas in order to create financial prosperity or abundance for you. And if you believe, for example, that there's something wrong with you, that you still have your limiting beliefs, you're not going to have thoughts or awarenesses that would transform those limiting beliefs into what we would call empowered new decisions, or that would allow you to let go of those limiting beliefs and therefore transform your reality. So your beliefs inform how you think now as an adult or a young adult. And every time you have a thought, you experience that thought as an emotion. Right. So as soon as your brain lights up with this electrical activity, activating this old memory or this belief, and then creating thoughts that are congruent with that belief, that energy is then transmitted throughout the entire nervous system, and you experience that thought as what we would call a feeling or an emotion. And your feelings and emotions determine what action you take. And so, if you're feeling not good enough, we would look at the actions that you take, and we would see that would be the actions of a person with low self-esteem. If you believe that you suck at personal growth and that your limiting beliefs are going to prevent you from creating the life that you want, you'd experience that as an emotion, some form of like stress or anxiety, again, not good enough, low self-esteem, overwhelm. And then that would then translate into action. You would show up as a stressed, anxious, overwhelmed person, desperately trying to get rid of your limiting beliefs. And your actions determine what results you produce. So let's just think about it for a second, and you can follow along with me again if you're on YouTube, or just shout it out loud if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. If you're desperately trying to change your limiting beliefs, do you think that is a state of being that's conducive to having awarenesses or breakthroughs to transform your limiting beliefs? No. So the results you would produce if you had all of these limiting beliefs about your experience of limiting beliefs and your experience of your personal growth journey and progress, if those are limiting beliefs, the results that you're going to produce is you've still got your limiting beliefs, right? Because you're trying to take action from a what we would call a primal state of being, from some form of suffering, desperately trying to get rid of your limiting beliefs. And then your results, and this is what's so interesting, reinforce the beliefs that actually started the whole process. So you'd go, see, I know it. I'm not good enough. See, I knew it. Other people can have success or abundance or prosperity, but not me. Why? Because, as our friend Michael Walsh said, I'm struggling to change the same beliefs that are front and center. The deeper I go into self-awareness, the more I struggle. Okay, but that's a belief. I know that that's been Michael's experience up until now, but we're going to talk about how to actually transform that. So what's the key to transforming it, right? We're talking about limiting beliefs. Could have limiting beliefs around money, limiting beliefs around relationships, limiting beliefs around growing your business, limited beliefs around your spiritual development, right? I'm not as far along as I should be in my spiritual growth. Limiting beliefs about anything. How do we transform a limiting belief? Well, I want to give you an equation, and I've talked about this in other episodes. It goes back to episode 3 on the podcast. So if you pick up what I'm laying down today and you haven't listened to episode 3, where I really map out this equation, I highly recommend you do. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can find one of my earlier episodes or videos, and you'll see the thumbnail with the equation that I'm about to share with you. But the most powerful equation in all of personal growth that distills and simplifies what can feel like a very complex, complicated, convoluted, maybe a bunch of other C words, convoluted conversation, right? This big, giant thing called personal growth. There's actually one equation that represents the key to transformation. And you can write this down or you can remember this. And the equation is very simple. It says desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. So what does that mean? Well, if you have a desire, like to make more money, as long as you have that desire and you don't have any resistance or limiting beliefs to that desire, then given enough time, you will produce more financial prosperity and abundance for yourself. And I'm going to tell you how this is true in a second so that I can get you to really buy in and stay loyal to this equation as the master key to transformation. Right? If you have a desire, like I did 11 years ago, after being single for 10 years and in my drug and alcohol and sex addiction recovery, I had a desire, which was to meet and find the woman and marry the woman of my dreams. And I added in a little bit of detail because I had started to get into this work. I knew that I could place some specific orders. I wanted to meet a beautiful Colombian woman and make her my wife. 2 weeks later, I met Carol. a beautiful Colombian woman who is now my wife, through a series of extraordinary coincidences and synchronicities. That was my desire. Plus non-resistance equals desired result. So if you look at this, the name of the game is to be in non-resistance. Now, the challenge is that most of us have been given bad mathematics from other people, really over the last few thousand years, but more specifically and more recent, your parents. We've been given bad math, right? A bad formula, which looks something like desire plus hustle and grind your ass off equals desired result. It's not true. That's not how it works. Desire plus do things perfectly and control your external environment and become a perfectionist equals desired result. It's not true, right? Desire, and in this case, like to liberate yourself spiritually and get rid of your limiting beliefs, plus find some magic pill or potion or shaman equals desired result. It's just not true. You look at it from like a chronic health standpoint. Desire plus find the perfect doctor with the perfect protocol equals desired result. And I could go on and on and on. Desire plus have enough time and have enough money equals desired result. No, the good news is that's not how it works. The equation is desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. How do we know this to be true? Well, again, this idea that our thoughts become our reality. You have desires, you have dreams. And going back to what I just shared with you, human behavioral psychology tells us that if you have the non-existence of a limiting belief, meaning you have an empowered belief, you believe that money is easy to make, then you're going to have thoughts around making money. That's going to feel good, and you're going to take motivated action as if you were an abundant, prosperous person. That's going to produce some form of result, like more money. Maybe not immediately, but over time. And as long as you don't reinsert resistance too quickly into your experience, over time, you're 100% guaranteed to produce the result, right? The problem is we check in too quickly. You know, have you ever gotten really, really excited about like the fact that your thoughts create your reality, and so you come up with a new incantation or affirmation or a new empowered belief for like 2 or 3 days, right? I am abundant and prosperous. You know, my body is healthy and well-being is my birthright. I know that I don't know how, I don't know when, but soon I'm going to meet the man or woman of my dreams, right? You start to develop a new belief, but then you check in on it in 3 days and you're like, where's the money? Where's my health? Where's the relationship? Well, that's reinsertion of resistance. The equation is desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. And a thought becomes a thing when you have a dream and you don't have a limiting belief, and that dream translates into specific thoughts, specific emotions, actions, and given enough time, 100% consistently and predictably, you'll produce the result. Now, there's a whole nother part of this conversation, which is how coincidences and synchronicities are created. Again, I go into depth in this on the Desire Plus Non-Resistance episode, which is episode 3 of the podcast and one of the earlier shows on YouTube. But this isn't woo-woo. This is understanding of behavioral psychology, and it's an understanding of physics. So if you want to actually, create some form of change, have dreams. Oh, well, check. You already got those, right? You already have desires. And then take a look at the resistance you have to the desire that you want and transform the resistance into non-resistance. Transform the limiting belief. Now, and you'll get the desired result. Now, here it's a little bit tricky because like our friend Michael said, yeah, but what I'm wanting to do is get rid of my limiting beliefs. Okay, cool. So let's look at it against the equation, right? Your desire is to, let go of limiting beliefs that you've been aware of for a while that you feel like you've been holding on to. Great. So then what's the key to producing that desired result? It's the only other component of the equation. It's non-resistance. What's the resistance? It's all of the meanings that you're giving this present experience of still experiencing the limiting belief. It's literally your limiting belief about limiting beliefs. That you have to hurry up and transform this or it's going to ruin your life. That you should have got rid of this limiting belief already. That there's something wrong with you because you have this limiting belief. The really sick, twisted comedy and irony of all of this is that the only thing that's preventing you from, over some short period of time, transforming these limiting beliefs that you're aware of is the beliefs you have about still having the limiting belief. Isn't that wild? Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind, Go Beyond Self-Awareness, Rewire Your Brain, and Re-Engineer Your Reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now back to your regularly scheduled episode. So I'm going to walk you through this. We're going to come up with some really new powerful decisions that you'll be able to adopt by the time you finish listening to this episode. If you are someone who feels like, you've got some limiting beliefs that you've been stuck with, or you suck at personal growth, or you're not as far along as you should be in your personal growth journey, or you're afraid that your limiting beliefs are going to prevent you from having the life that you want. Now remember, we've got this very simple equation to make it easy for us. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. What's your desire? My desire is to be better at personal growth. My desire is to be more spiritually grown. My desire is to let go of these limiting beliefs that I've been aware of. Cool. You know what? Good news, 100% of the time, you'll produce the result as long as you do one thing and one thing only, which is non-resistance. So we've got to find a way to transform the resistance, which is your beliefs about this experience, right? About not being as far along as you should be, or that these limiting beliefs have been around for a while. We've got to transform those limiting beliefs into non-resistance, right? Into something that feels good, into a new empowered belief. So let's do this. In order to do this, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of our framework and our methodology. By the way, if you haven't yet, at the end of this episode, I highly recommend you jump on over to davidbear.com and get on our newsletter, because you're going to get a bunch of videos teaching you our framework and methodologies. But one of the distinctions we teach is called the two states of being. So I want to explain that to you right now. And we're going to apply the two states of being to this desire you have to be further along in your personal growth, to have fewer limiting beliefs. So the two states of being says that there are only two states of being. States of being like powerful states. Powerful states of being are states of being that feel good. States of being like joy, calm, peace, compassion, empathy, excitement, passion, curiosity. And states of being that feel bad, we call them primal states of being. Powerful states and primal states. Primal states are states of being like boredom, stress, anxiety, feeling not good enough, indecision, procrastination, anger, jealousy. States of being that don't feel good. Now, what's interesting is you're always in one state of being or the other. So right now you're in a state of being. You can check in with yourself. You're in a powerful state or a primal state right now, right? You getting excited about this video and you're in a powerful state because you're about to have a breakthrough? Or are you in a primal state because you're like, man, but what if this video doesn't actually provide me the key to, or episode doesn't provide me the key to get rid of this limiting belief, and you're feeling desperate about it? Primal state. There's no judgment around it, but just notice you're always in one state of being or the other, and you're never in two states of being at the same time. And powerful states map to the parasympathetic activation of the nervous system. So you're in rest, relaxation, flow, intuition, connection, energy, intelligence. And primal states, states of being that don't feel good, map to the sympathetic expression of the nervous system. Fight or flight or freeze. Right? And so that's where you're operating with your lower human faculties, really almost like our ancestral, some people call it reptilian faculties, right? You're operating from survival, not from thriving. And so what's important to understand is that the name of the game is to operate from a powerful state. A powerful state is the same thing as operating from non-resistance. So what is determining whether you're operating from a primal state or a powerful state? If the name of the game is to operate from a powerful state, if in order to transform this experience you're having and accelerate your personal growth and let go of your limiting beliefs, the key is to be in non-resistance or a powerful state. What determines whether you're in a powerful state or non-resistance? Well, it's the thinking that's occurring for you. Your thoughts, or the meaning that you give an experience, are the only things that determine whether you're in a powerful state or a primal state. Where you are in your journey of personal growth and how long perhaps you've been aware of your limiting beliefs and how they're materializing in your life, that's just an experience. That's a fact, right? I've been aware of my limiting beliefs around money for the last 17 years. And I know that as a result of that, I have not created the abundance and prosperity that I'm capable of creating for myself. That's a fact. That doesn't move you into a powerful state or a primal state. But all of a sudden, the thinking you have about that fact, the meaning that you're giving the experience of how long you've been aware of this limiting belief and the impact that perhaps it's had up until now, the meaning you give the experience, that's what determines if you're in a powerful or primal state. Because if the meaning you give the experience is, I've been aware of this for 17 years, and I know that's been impacting my ability to generate prosperity and abundance, but the good news is that I've been aware of it for so long, it's probably on the brink of changing. It could be any day now, and as soon as it changes, I'm going to experience extraordinary wealth, prosperity, and abundance. Well, you'd experience a powerful state. But if the meaning you give that experience is, it's been so long, it may never actually change, and therefore I'm never going to be able to experience the prosperity and abundance I would like, you're going to move into a primal state, right? That's the difference between non-resistance and resistance. And so the two states of being is really important to understand. And what we've also found is not only is it just your own thinking about the experience that determines whether you're in a powerful state or a primal state. And remember, the key is to be in a powerful state. That's where the solution will emerge. To be in non-resistance, the solution is an inevitability. But what we've also realized is that the quality of the thinking that moves you into a primal state is that 100% of the time it's not true. It's a limiting belief. And your nervous system is actually signaling to you that it's not true. Because I guess the way I would describe it is you're sort of entangling with this dissonant energy, right? This limiting belief is lighting up in your brain, and you're kind of feeling it as an emotion, as an expression of your nervous system, and it doesn't feel good because it's not in alignment with what's true. It's not in alignment with what's actually available to you as a possibility. And some people in our community are now describing this as it's not in alignment with God's will for you, whatever the God of your own understanding is. And you certainly don't have to believe in a higher power or God to do this work. I find that it's helpful. But what your nervous system is basically saying is, hey, whatever you're thinking, right, Michael Walsh, that the deeper you go into self-awareness, the more you've struggled to change the same beliefs, and maybe they're never going to change. That's not your higher power's perspective on what's going on. And so now we can begin to explore it, because we can say, well, if that belief I have or the thinking I have around my own personal growth journey, that I suck at it, that I should be further along, that these limiting beliefs are never going to change, that the more self-aware I become, the more I struggle with them. If none of that's actually true, follow me on this, because it doesn't feel good. And there are only two states of being. And we know that if we move into a primal state, it's only caused by the meaning we're giving the experience. And that means the quality of the meaning is that it's untrue. Well, then some form of the opposite must be true, right? So now we can start to work with the limiting belief, in this instance, around the eradication of our limiting beliefs. And so we can go, well, if that's not true, that I'm not as far along with as I should be with my personal growth journey, then what's the opposite of that? I'm exactly where I should be in my personal growth journey? Okay, got it. If it's not true that I'm never going to get rid of these limiting beliefs and they're going to negatively impact me and my future, then what must be true? That I am going to get rid of these limiting beliefs and that they're not going to impact me in my future? That I'm actually in the process right now of getting rid of these limiting beliefs, and that what I want is actually imminent in my future, right? If it doesn't feel good to say, God, I've been carrying these limiting beliefs for so long, there's something wrong with me, then what's the opposite of that? Man, I've been experiencing these limiting beliefs for so long, and that must mean there's something really right about me? Okay, got it. And so now we start to propose a new hypothesis. We're entertaining a new empowered belief. And the third step of this process, which I explain again in another video, going back to episode 2, when I teach the decision matrix, is what evidence do I have for the fact that this is true? Like, what evidence do I have for the fact that I'm exactly where I need to be in my personal growth journey? What evidence do I have for the fact that it's totally appropriate that I've been experiencing my limiting beliefs as long as I've been experiencing them? What evidence do I have for the fact that I'm currently in the process of transforming and letting go of these limiting beliefs so that I can actually materialize new changes in my life? What evidence do I have for the fact that it's actually perfect how long I've been experiencing these limiting beliefs? Because as a result of experiencing these limiting beliefs, it's brought me into this deeper personal growth journey, which is going to empower me into creating even more abundance and prosperity and joy and connection in my life, right? And so we start to go like, okay, what evidence do I have for the fact that this is true? And the evidence that we have for the fact that this is true can be quite elusive, right? But the answer is actually something that's emerging in this conversation we're having right here. The only reason that you have been experiencing these limiting beliefs longer than you would like is because you had these fears that these limiting beliefs would never go away. And the brain is a goal-achieving machine, and your thoughts become your reality. That's the only reason you're still experiencing these limiting beliefs. The only reason you're experiencing these limiting beliefs is because you've been feeling pressure and desperation to get rid of these limiting beliefs because you're afraid that they're going to negatively impact you in the future. But the fact that you've been experiencing these limiting beliefs longer than you would like to has brought you to this video. It's brought you to this channel. It's brought you to this conversation where you've learned something that if you allow it to be this for you will be an absolute game changer for you and your personal growth, which is this conversation. And understanding that desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. Understanding that there are only two states of being, and that if you're thinking something that doesn't feel good, it's not true. Gaining access to next level transformational tools so that you can not only finally let go of these limiting beliefs that have been so pesky through the mechanics of this work, but you can use these tools to just literally catapult any area of your life that you're wanting to be expansive forward, whether it's your bank account or your impact or your relationships or your self-esteem or your spiritual connection. What if you experiencing these limiting beliefs for as long as you've been experiencing them has been part of the miracle of the process of you finally finding a set of tools and getting into a conversation that can be not only a breakthrough for you to get out of your pain, but to become more powerful than you could ever possibly imagine? So these awarenesses emerge when we adopt this distinction that if I'm thinking there's something wrong, that I'm still experiencing my limiting beliefs, that doesn't feel good, right? Then it's not true. Like, one of the things I'm wanting to communicate in this episode, and you guys let me know how well I'm doing it, I'm doing the best I can, is that the key to progressing in your personal evolution is to relax about the speed and how it's occurring. So often we put unnecessary pressure on our personal growth journey. Like our friend Michael, we become aware of our limiting beliefs and then we start becoming afraid of our own thinking. But if we just relax around it, the tools, the support, the wisdom, the awareness necessary in order for us to transcend and transform those limiting beliefs into expansion in our life will arrive. I'd go so far as to say that you started relaxing a little bit more about your limiting beliefs just recently, which is why this video showed up for you. You open the door just a little bit for the help that is always trying to get to you, that is always on the way, whether it's to support you in your business, whether it's to support you in your health, whether it's to support you out of your anxiety or your depression or help you with your illness or your dis-ease. There's always help on the way, but what keeps the help just outside of our perception is the resistance. Are the limiting beliefs that we have about the desired outcome that we're wanting to produce. A lot of the people in our community are in our community because they want to change their limiting beliefs. They want to create more expansion in their life. They all get to a point where they have created some great change in their mind, and therefore they've produced some significant shifts in their external environment. But there are a handful of limiting beliefs or resistances that still exist, and they start to tighten up around it. They start to push too hard on it. They start to give a meaning to the experience of the presence of these remaining limiting beliefs that they've been aware of for a very, very long time, they give a meaning to that's creating resistance, and they get stuck with those limiting beliefs. And so what I'm suggesting to you is you're already aware of your limiting beliefs. You're already aware of the fact that you'd like to let go of them. Now leave it alone. Leave it alone. Move into non-resistance. Go for a walk with the dog. Take a bubble bath. Go spend some time with some friends. Stop working so hard on your personal growth. Because the key to you actually materializing this desire, which is the elimination of some of these limiting beliefs, is not to actually continue to work on these limiting beliefs harder and harder and harder. It's to move into non-resistance. And you can move into non-resistance by either removing yourself from the problem, or you can move into non-resistance by using the distinctions that I've been sharing with you to transform the problem into a non-problem, right? So here's what I know. I know that what you desire is to become spiritually awakened. I know that what you desire is to let go of your limiting beliefs. And I know that that will happen automatically, predictably, without much effort, as long as you can start operating in non-resistance. So take a look at where your resistance is coming from, because that's what you believe about this experience of your personal growth journey. And my sense is you've probably resonated with a number of the limiting beliefs or meanings that I've presented that many people experience when they become acutely aware that they've got a handful of limiting beliefs that have been around for a while and they feel like they haven't been able to transform them yet. And just know that the key to transforming them is to no longer feel desperate or pressured to do it, right? And the path that I have walked you through today, which is a path that I've walked down myself in order to break through my own personal development ceiling, is a path of seeing that there's nothing wrong with you, that these limiting beliefs should not have been gone earlier, that they're not big and hairy, that they're not going to prevent you from having the life that you want moving forward, and that they are actually a gift because they've brought you to this conversation where you're gaining access to the next level of tools in order for you to reconnect with yourself, in order to reconnect with your higher power, in order to start living your entire life in non-resistance and ease and flow. Because the point of this is to have joy and peace in our lives, right? We often think that by achieving these material outcomes, that's how we'll give ourselves permission to be happy. But the key is to be in non-resistance. The key is to be in happiness now. And the byproduct of that, or the effect of that, are all of the dreams and desires you have. And these little things called limiting beliefs that you thought were such a problem, they've actually been driving you forward into gaining more wisdom. They've driven you forward into connecting with the people and the information that you need to connect with in order to live a more joyful life. Right? They've been almost little disguised messengers of joy, your limiting beliefs. And we can experience them as that when we don't make them into some giant boogeyman, as a result of having been aware of these little disguised messengers of joy for a while, right? That we don't allow the mind to give it a meaning that they're never going to go away, that we're not going to be able to create what we want, and that there's something wrong with us. That's the only thing that you need to let go of. Chill out in this whole personal development thing. Just relax. If you enjoy it, keep consuming content. Keep watching my channel. If it makes you feel good and it brings you inspiration, fantastic. But it's not supposed to be that hard. We're making it a lot harder than it needs to be. And it's just this little gray area that we get stuck in when we get into personal growth work and we start to become aware of our limiting beliefs. But what we're not aware of is the fact that the mind will focus our energy and attention on their existence. And that because the brain is a goal-achieving machine, that just means they continue to exist, along with all of the primal state-inducing meanings or unintelligent meanings or limiting beliefs that we have around the experience of our personal growth journey. You're growing, you're evolving, you're doing fantastic. I mean, the fact that you're actually still listening to this episode just shows that you're like in the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of people who are not only committed to their personal and spiritual growth because you want to improve your own life and you want to make the world a better place and you want to be the best version of yourself for the people you care about, but you're also gaining access to the information. Like you're getting the tools. And this is just another step in the journey. Let the fact that we are having this conversation right here, right now, be evidence of the fact that you're progressing dramatically and exponentially in your personal growth, right? And the breakthrough that you're looking for isn't actually about you having to be, do, or somehow, create more. It's about you just being okay with where you're at. If you're just cool with the fact that these limiting beliefs are here and that you are where you are, man, that is just the key that unlocks the result that you're looking for, which is the letting go of the belief itself. What do they say? That which we resist persists. What if you could just be okay with the fact that you've got this habit of thought and this habit of emotion that's still around, and you realize that the only thing that's been preventing it from sort of cycling out of your nervous system and from transforming is the pressure you've been putting on yourself to try to get rid of the damn thing. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, Dave. What you're telling me is the reason why it feels like it's taking so long is just because I've been trying to get rid of this limiting belief too hard. And if I actually just go enjoy myself and have some dinner with friends and forget about it and watch some more stuff that I enjoy, that naturally is a byproduct of that non-resistance, I'll look back and see that I'm no longer experiencing that limiting belief. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. That's exactly what I'm telling you. In the non-resistance, you might pick up some tool that helps you finally transform it. And in the non-resistance, you might, listen to a video and hear a distinction that helps you transform it. In the non-resistance, you might have some mystical experience while you're, sitting in the sauna at 170 degrees, and all of a sudden you remember something you never remembered, and it processes through your nervous system. I can't tell you how it's going to happen, but I'm telling you that this is physics. This is law. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. And if your desire is to actually let go of some long-held limiting beliefs that, as our friend said, you've struggled to change and that you've been aware of for a long time, it might just be time to relax a little bit. And in that relaxation, watch how the solution emerges. And by the way, the good news is it's not just about how you transform your experience of your personal growth. It's how you transform your experience financially. It's how you transform your experience in terms of everything, growth in your business, relationships, whatever it is. The key to this is non-resistance. And, let's have a little bit of gratitude for our limiting beliefs right now, because if it weren't for them, neither you nor I would be in this conversation. I would not be recording this podcast if it wasn't for my limiting beliefs and what they created in my life that, I realized wasn't a desire. You wouldn't be here if you weren't, experiencing your limiting beliefs. So there's some magic to this. There's some appreciation and gratitude we can have. And man, if you can actually have gratitude for your limiting beliefs, that's the fastest way for you to say, hey, thanks, and for them to transform into something that is going to yield extraordinary change in your external reality. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you had, don't forget to subscribe. You can hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon if you want to know about new videos that are coming up. And this was a very macro conversation. Of course, in other episodes, we're talking specifically around how to change different areas of our life or other aspects of our spiritual growth. But we can get to a place when you're as committed to being the best version of yourself as I know you are, where we can get gunked up a little bit with this limiting belief we have about what it should be like right now and what it should feel like right now and who we should be right now. And I can tell you one thing I know 100% for certain. If that doesn't feel good to you, whatever meaning you're giving where you think you should be or what it should be like right now, well, guess what? That ain't God's will for you, and it ain't true. So just chill out. Enjoy the rest of your chilled out day, and I will see you in the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.